There are multiple investing strategies that can be implemented into your portfolio to build generational wealth. What is often overlooked, and nearly as important as the strategy itself, is how specifically to manage your portfolio. In this video, we'll answer the following questions: when to buy, when to sell, how to rebalance your portfolio, and how to minimize your tax bill. Before that, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Jeff Teeples, and here we aim to grow your wealth with simple, time-tested solutions. If you enjoy videos like this, as always, destroy that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop me a comment below with any questions that come to mind. Let's grow. When and what to buy. Let's start at ground zero. The first step is creating our portfolio target allocations, and we'll assume that we're brand new investors here. It's always good to throw in there that the allocations will vary based on the following: your age, risk tolerance, work situation, current wealth, and retirement goals. There are a million ways to effectively set up a low-cost, passively managed portfolio. Let's assume for our example here that you're going to roll with 50% VTI, or the total US stock market, 25% QQQM, or the NASDAQ 100 growth ETF, and then 25% DGRO. It's a quality dividend growth ETF. After you save up an emergency fund, which should always be the first step before investing any money in the market, it's time to start dollar cost averaging into your portfolio allocations. This will help put your wealth accumulation on autopilot. Let's assume in our case here that we'll be putting in $500 each month. And if you receive things like a bonus from your job, or you save some money by cutting costs, throw the extra money right into the portfolio. But those extra contributions will be in addition of and not replacing the $500 a month that we're going to dollar cost average into the market. The beauty about dollar cost averaging into your portfolio mix is that in most cases, you'll be able to stay to your allocations without ever having to sell any holdings. For example, in our scenario, let's say that tech takes a dive and QQQM drops by 25%. All while VTI and DGRO stay about flat. When you put in your $500 next week, more of that $500 is going to buy QQQM to get it back up to its 25% target allocation. And a side note to all that, this will enable you to automatically buy the dip over the years without trying to outsmart the market. As I've mentioned in other videos, I think that M1 Finance is a fantastic platform to passively grow long-term wealth. You set up your target allocations, and then after that, you just feed it money and it does the rest. Consider using my M1 Finance referral link down in the description below. This will get you free money based on the amount that you put in when you fund your account. When to sell. There should only be two situations that cause a long-term investor to sell a holding. One, you decide that you'd like to add a more attractive stock or ETF to replace one of your current holdings. Or two, your portfolio allocations begin to drift apart based on the comparative performance of your holdings as your portfolio grows in size over the years. I have this happen a lot in my portfolio with VGT and SCHD. This is when you may need to execute a portfolio rebalance. And please, whatever you do, don't sell when the experts are saying that the market's about to crash because it can't go any higher, or you read an article recommending a sell. Just don't. You're nearly guaranteed to make a 6 to 7 figure difference over multiple decades if you just stay the course. My solution to timing the market, which is a crisis for many people, is to hold 10% cash in my portfolio at all times and actually consider cash a holding. I keep it in a Vanguard money market, VMFXX. When the market actually crashes, I'll deploy some of that cash into my target allocations to get it back down to 10%. Or when the market is actually going to the moon, I put my new money into cash to get it back up to 10%. This systematically guarantees that I time the market effectively over a long period of time. How taxes really work. I think it's important to cover some tax implications before diving into our selling scenarios. Let's make an example out of Roth IRAs. Now look, I love Roth IRAs, and I think it should be the highest investing priority for anyone in the 12% tax bracket. But most investors grossly overrate the Roth IRA compared to the traditional IRA because of the buzzworthy nature of tax-free forever. If you're in the 22 to 37% tax bracket, your Roth IRA contributions are forever losing 22 to 37% of their compounding power compared to making contributions to your traditional IRA or 401k. And the math weirdly cancels out the element of time to the penny when comparing Roth versus traditional contributions. You are almost certainly losing money long-term if you choose Roth contributions over traditional contributions as someone that's in the 22% or higher of a tax bracket. Now, of course, you want to effectively max everything you can, but I'm just saying any dollar that you choose one or the other, this is how it actually works in reality. And my point to that seemingly random side tangent is that similar tax misconceptions stop people from selling a stock all the time. If you think a better holding is available for your portfolio, then you should sell your current holding and buy the new one if either of these two statements are true. You are carrying an unrealized loss on your current position, or you have held the position for over 1 year. People lose so much money by holding on to a loser, hoping that it hits the green someday, or on the flip side, not wanting to sell one of their winners that they no longer want because it'll create a taxable event. And another common one I see is that people don't like to hold dividend-paying ETFs or stocks in a taxable account. I hear all the time that people only hold their dividend ETFs or stocks in their tax-protected accounts, and they only hold their growth stocks and ETFs in their taxable accounts. It's not necessarily a bad way to do it, but it is overblown if we're talking about holdings that pay qualified dividends. Let's tackle the account types one at a time. Tax-protected accounts, retirement accounts, will treat all forms of gains the same way. In Roth accounts, the gains will not be taxed at all. And traditional accounts will tax all interest, dividend payments, price appreciation, any type of gain at your ordinary income rate in the year that you take the funds out of the account. In other words, all gains are taxed, or not taxed, equally in retirement accounts. You'll owe more in taxes on a growth ETF, ultimately, than you will on a dividend ETF when you take it out of your retirement account, assuming that the growth ETF over that 20, 30, 40 years ultimately had higher total returns than the dividend ETF. Now, on the flip side, I'm asked often, why hold SCHD in the taxable account, which is what I do, instead of VGT? And my answer to that is that SCHD pays qualified dividends. It is a forced taxable event, but I like the special tax table of it being taxed the same way that long-term capital gains are taxed, much more favorably than our ordinary income or our marginal tax rate. And when dividends are reinvested, I get a cost basis increase, so that specific $100 is never taxed again. So say SCHD pays me a $100 dividend. When I reinvest it, it does trigger that forced taxable event we talked about at the long-term capital gains tax table rate. But when it's reinvested, I get $100 more of SCHD, and I increase my cost of SCHD by $100. So zero gain in that transaction. Of course, any future growth is taxed no matter how you slice it. And remember, in the traditional IRA, those dividends and the price appreciation will ultimately be taxed just like they were in the taxable account when you take it out someday. So there's no such thing as avoiding tax. It's a roundabout way of saying it doesn't really matter where you hold your ETFs as long as we're talking about qualified dividends. It absolutely matters if the dividends are not qualified. And I just prefer to have cash flow if I want it before I'm 59 and a half. Sell and replace a holding. I think we mostly covered this in my long-winded last section. Let's say you decide to get rid of DGRO and instead you want SCHD in your portfolio. If it's a retirement account, feel free to make the change anytime because there are zero tax implications. A side note to that, you may want to check out the ex-dividend date. Maybe DGRO is just about to pay a dividend, and since it's a solid holding anyway, and you've been thinking about this for a while, you may as well hold it and get that dividend, and then sell it and put it into SCHD. Although another side note, remember the dividend dates could be around the same time, in which case you may as well just sell it and get the higher yield of SCHD, but you know what I mean. Check out the dividend stuff before making the move. You are also not making a mistake by selling any tax lots of DGRO in a taxable account that currently have an unrealized loss. This will reduce your taxable income for the current year. And selling any DGRO, even at a gain that you've held for at least 1 year, isn't that bad of a thing either. There's a little to no chance that you'll ever be taxed more favorably on those gains than how we are currently taxed on long-term capital gains. And if you've completely lost faith in a holding and you are itching to turn it into something else because you do not have faith in it anymore, you can sell gains, short-term gains, so stuff you've held for less than a year at a gain, but just know that it will add to your federal tax tables, like it will add to your ordinary income, and it could push you up to a higher tax bracket, and wherever you are currently in the tax brackets, it'll be taxed at that percentage instead of the special tax table. But never let taxes alone be the only reason you're holding on to something that is performing poorly. If it is still a solid holding and you're patient, you can just start selling the tax lots as each one has been held for at least a year and probably save a little money and just take the proceeds from the sale and dump that into the new holding that you want. How to rebalance. Rebalancing will use the same order of operations that we covered in the last section. If the holdings are in a tax-protected account, such as a traditional IRA or Roth IRA, you can sell a position and buy the new one at any time. This is how I rebalance my portfolio because I have a pretty nice size of SCHD and VGT in my traditional IRA. So when one starts to creep way ahead of the other one, I can sell a little bit if my new money isn't enough to balance it out and buy the other one to get them back to even. Another quick thing I should mention, I always sell and buy at the same time when I'm doing a rebalance. Timing the market is so tempting, but it is a dangerous game. If your holdings are in a taxable account that you need to rebalance, use this order of operations. Sell unrealized losses first, and then sell long-term capital gains second. And the third method I would use is to continue DCAing into the new position. Unless it's a rare situation, you shouldn't need to sell short-term capital gains to rebalance your portfolio. Gold star to you if you're still awake at this point. I know this wasn't the most exciting video, but I do get asked these questions a lot, and I think it's valuable information. Check out one of these 2 videos if you're still up for it, and if they tickle your fancy. Thank you for watching, and I will see you here each and every Thursday, and usually on a Sunday.